Welcome to the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Together we explore the vast landscapes of life, delving into the rich soil of experiences, sowing the seeds of curiosity, and harvesting the profound wisdom that each episode unfolds. Welcome to another podcast of Harvesting Wisdom. I'm your host, Mike McMahon. With me today is Philippe Drouhin. Did I get that close?
Perfect.
Okay.
Philippe
And
Drouhin, yes.
we were
I
on
know the R is not easy to.
Right, and we are in
We're in the Clos right here.
Clos des Mouches, Domaine's Joseph Drouhin. Your family has been doing this for how long?
It all started in 1880.
Okay.
Joseph Drouhin founded the company, and in 1921, it's mentioned on this plate just because it was the first acquisition that started the estate, the ownership of land.
Okay.
And it happened 100 meters from here. That was the first plot that was purchased.
Wow.
By my grandfather.
And why do you think he started with? Did he start with Pinot Noir, or did he have other grapes? Did he try?
Yes, he started with Pinot Noir. Well, the plant was already landed. The land was already planted.
Oh, I see.
With Pinot Noir. And then later on, he acquired other vineyards in this area and others. And he, on the Beaune village, it was mostly Pinot Noir that was planted. But at the time, also, you are still allowed to plant some Chardonnay up to 15%. Nowadays it's up to 15%, but you could do what you wanted back in 21. They planted some Pinot Gris and Chardonnay inside the rows of Pinot Noir. It all went into the fermenter of Pinot Noir.
Small percentage.
Yeah, at the time it was not as easy to cultivate and get enough sugar, enough ripeness as we do today without problems. And having some Pinot Gris and Chardonnay helped having sugar because it's naturally more concentrated in sugar than Pinot Noir on the same growth stage.
And it gave it a little more complexity to it.
Yes, they didn't
Sweetness.
have easily access to sugar to add to the fermenters, so that was a natural way to get a little more sugar and potential of alcohol in the fermenter.
Okay.
And so he had this vineyard planted mostly with Pinot Noir and a little bit of Chardonnay, but you might know that Chardonnay doesn't grow at the same speed as Pinot Noir, actually.
Right.
And it doesn't. The best harvest date is not necessarily the same for both. And he said, okay, let's try to separate the Pinot Noir and the Chardonnay. So he did with a few vines of Chardonnay, enough to press it. And he was
add it
struck.
to the fermentation after.
Well, it happened like that for a couple of years, and then suddenly he discovered that he had to identify it separately because the timing was not good.
Right.
And so he made white wine, which was the first here, and he was struck by the quality of it.
Wow, yes.
And he had a friend of his that was the owner of Maxime's in Paris.
Made him
that
famous.
Tasted the wine and said, I want the exclusivity of it.
Wow, okay.
It was something like 4 barrels.
Yeah, well, that makes it exclusive. But you're talking
So that
about
was the start
the
of
beginning.
the Chardonnay, of the Clos des Mouches wine.
Wow, okay. And so was he a farmer before that? Like, how young was he when he did that?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably in his 40s, 30s.
So he wasn't a kid.
No.
He was doing other things.
Yeah, he was there was war.
Right. Well, that whole thing.
Participated in the wars, and also he was in the Hospice de Beaune for a long time as an administrator.
Wow.
But his main activity was to take care of the estate, to buy wine, and to run the négociant business that his father Joseph had
it is really kind of amazing, the stories, and we, especially younger people watching, think 1921. Oh, that was a long time ago.
Mm.
But my grandfather, I think, was born in the late 1800s, and he was in Buffalo, New York, which is snow most of the time, very cold.
Mm.
They make a white wine outside of it, but he tried growing, and he had an old press that I have now, and I think, and then he gave that to my father, who also made a really good vinegar. That's how I describe it. But as kids, we used to have to play around and do it and press it, and we had to stomp on it and the whole, the thing. But that's being in the wrong place at the wrong time, I guess, compared to being here. But 1921, it was just, your third or fourth generation on this.
No, he was the second generation.
He was
There
second.
Joseph, then Maurice,
Okay.
who acquired the first Clos des Mouches in 21.
Okay.
And then after a couple of years, this Clos des Mouches White happened. And then at the end of the 50s, my father took over because my grandfather had a stroke.
Hmm.
And he's been running the company until we arrived, even though he stayed on board. Veronique, my sister, started, I think, in 86 or something like that. I started in 88, and my two other brothers a couple of years later. So the four of us are working in the family now.
Oh, that's great.
So the switch between my father was in the late 80s, between my father and us. Even though he kept running the company, we had specific roles inside the company.
You were scaling.
Exactly.
Right. So, and it's not normal to see multiple generation companies survive. And think of we talked about World War I. There was World War II. There was a bunch of other wars since then. We've had COVID. We've had all these different things, yet the vineyard still makes it, still thrives. And do you still have some old growth from way back then? Do you have any?
The oldest piece of vineyard that we have, I think, on paper it says 1906. It's in the Côte de Nuit, so 3/4 of half an hour from here. But frankly,
not too many vines left.
I don't think any vine has made it since then. But we have a vineyard up here that's from 1935.
Wow.
That's the oldest. We have a few other vines just above the walk where the tractor is. It's 1945.
Wow.
But again, it's very hard to know how many vines, if any,
from that time, because you're constantly replacing, right?
Yes. Well, some die, some are damaged by the tools, and so you replace them. And so you never have a homogeneous age inside any vineyard.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, this is primarily limestone at the base with like marl, a little bit of lime clay. Is that what?
Yeah, that's clay and limestone.
Right.
The pH is around 7.8, 7.8.
Similar to Arizona.
And there are many variations in the soil between any place and 100 meters next to that place.
Right.
If you dig a hole halfway up of these rows and dig the same hole halfway up where the tractor is over there, you will see that it's two very different soils, even though they carry the same appellation.
Right. And you've got, do you treat them somehow differently, or it's treated more or less the same when you're working with the soil?
Depending on the characteristics of the soil, and by soil I would mean mostly what's in the brown color zone, which might vary in depth. In that zone, all over here, it's, well, no, it's not perfectly true, but there are some clay characteristics in particular at each place that I pay attention to make sure that the compost that I'm bringing will be useful, will not be in excess. So depending on the type of clay is very important, more than the level of limestone that there would be. And so yes, I would treat each piece of vineyard And when I say piece of vineyard, it can be 1/4 of an acre.
Sure.
I will treat that separately. I look at it separately, and I will determine what to do in that vineyard separately. So it might be that all the small parcels next to each other have the same treatment, is not the right term, but I will do the same in the soil management because they have the same characteristics. But
Sure.
then maybe 100 meters above it, the soil will get whiter, will have less clay or different or more what I don't know in English above less fine than clay.
More silt.
Limon, yeah, silt.
Yeah, right. So
Silt between silt and loam.
right. Silt and loam are
anyway,
kind of the same.
It's
term.
not as fine as clay.
Right.
So the capacity to knit with organic matter is not the same. So you would adjust the organic matter, the organic matter management, and also in the winter to prevent erosion, to increase the
infiltration,
water and air exchange capacity of the soil. We would seed after harvest or
like a vetch or a grass of some sort.
A winter cover crop.
Okay.
It'll be well. In the past, I've tried brassica, legume, and cereals mix.
Mm-hmm.
But brassicas were complicated, and in the end, we have 2 cereals and 1 legume.
Okay, well, the legume's going to help
but
with
it's
nitrogen.
just behind. You can see we did not destroy everything the way we should have. You can see
some of the growing still.
Well, some cereals are still
right.
have not been cut down.
So you're doing
they should have been. But
maybe an oat.
Yeah, that must be probably a triticale.
Okay.
I don't know if triticale is said the same way in English.
So are you using GPS now to map? Because you've got such a large acreage at this point.
No, we don't use GPSs to, like in agriculture, where they have GPSs to know what to spread where.
Right.
But the GPS is used for other purposes to know exactly where the tractor has been going.
Right. So you don't want to go twice, so you don't want to miss a row or something.
Exactly.
Right,
when they spread it, they miss a row. We can look at that on the maps. I would say basic use of what the GPS can provide us, but I don't go to the sophistication of having the GPS decide what the tool behind should do depending on where it is.
Got it. So that is, who is walking that? Are you the operations guy that walks that, one of your brothers, or do you just have
No. I have a vineyard manager.
Okay.
We have 3 estates, one in Chablis and 130 kilometers northwest from here. Then here, and I say here, it's actually an hour drive between the most northern piece of vineyard we have and the
all the way to here. Wow, okay.
And then another hour drive on the highway south in the McMahon area. We have another vineyard. And so I have, in each place, I have a vineyard manager. So he's the local guy that would manage the people and the equipment to do the job.
And obviously that person has to have the expertise to really kind of see and spot things, right? To know if he's got something that he's got to treat.
I visit those vineyards regularly, but they are there every day. So we discuss every day how everything's going.
Right.
In terms of behavior of the vines, in terms of does everything look normal, or should I come because there's something that looks strange?
Sure.
And normally they have enough qualities that if I was away 2 weeks, there would be no problem in the vineyard.
Not 3 weeks, but 2.
Maybe 3 would be too long. But
right.
No, and it also very much depends on how critical the season can be. Seasons can be easy, can be difficult.
Do you notice the individual patches changing much? I mean, if you have one area, maybe that's more on a slope and maybe it's got a little higher level of limestone or whatever, it's not necessarily changing year to year. But
well, the behavior of the vines year after year is about the same relative to the others.
Right.
If one's growing faster than the next one, whatever the year, it'll be like that the next year.
Right.
Unless I do something really crazy in the vineyards to change that.
Okay.
But so once you have experience with your vineyards, it becomes much easier to manage. You don't waste time, go look at things that you don't need to go look at, because
Right.
you know, unless there is something particularly exceptional, you know that how it's going to behave, and there can't be any big surprise.
Yeah.
The areas that need more attention, you know which one they are, and you concentrate on these when you go to an area.
Right. Some handle water better, some don't. Some
exactly
have a little more erosion or whatever it may be. Now, I don't know if I remember this right, but in France, you're not really allowed to irrigate. I don't see irrigation anywhere.
In Burgundy, it's not allowed at all.
Okay.
No.
So are you a little concerned with maybe weather patterns or climate change where you're not getting the water at the right time, like in other parts of the world, or has it been fairly stable?
Certainly, heat waves, droughts become a concern when they were not at all 15 years ago.
Right.
It's very difficult for us to know what's the perfect path to the future, because one, we're not sure about the future.
Right.
But looking at what the scientists say the weather is likely going to be in 25 years from now, where they say you'll have the same amount of water, but much more in the winter, much less in the growing season.
Right.
It could lead to problems of water availability in certain parts of the estate. Because you have areas, if you look down there, see,
completely different than over here.
The cars are, it's deeper soils than where we are.
Right.
So there is more water retention capacity. It's obviously less likely to have a lack of water problems.
How deep
But
do
here,
these?
yes.
How deep do these vines? I mean, you every once in a while pull a vine out, or you have a dead one, or whatever. How deep do you think these are penetrating?
How
deep
can the roots go?
Yeah.
I don't think there is a limit. The only limit is really the rock that it can hit.
Right.
Vine roots can go as deep as 20 meters.
Right. Crazy.
You know, the areas, and maybe in the Loire Valley, where they grow mushrooms in caves.
Mm-hmm.
And on the ceiling of caves, they have seen roots coming from the vineyards up above, more than 20 meters up above.
Wow.
So the roots really, they have a way, if there is no physical barrier, they can go anywhere they want. But they don't go deep just because they want to go deep. They go deep if there is a lack of water and they need to fetch water. Then they go down, they go deeper down.
Okay.
So if it goes too fast, obviously the roots can't keep up with that.
Right.
But that's one of the good things of not irrigating. If you have year after year variations about where the limit of water availability is and is not, the roots will be okay, fine, 1 year, 2 years. The next year it goes down. They will start to grow.
You'd have a very hard time irrigating 20 meters deep.
Yes.
I don't think they have tools for that.
No, but that process of the roots going deeper is very much linked to the history of what the weather has been and where the water availability.
It's like a tree ring.
Been. So it goes down when it needs to go down because there is a lack of water. If you irrigate all the time, the roots say, okay, no need to go down. They will remain in a closer area, closer to the top.
Yeah.
But here, even though it's a good thing, because there is obviously the deeper you go, the more buffer there is for a drought, obviously. But in some areas there is soil that's like that. The roots can't go through that.
Right.
So if you hit that, then you're at the point where if there is a lack of water for too long, the vine will suffer. And we have areas like this that did not show up for ages. That's now start to show up because of the extreme heat waves and droughts that we can face. We don't have that many, but sometimes we do.
You're putting a compost down. I don't know if you're making compost drenches.
Compost what?
drenches where you soak water into the vineyard once or twice or 3 or 4 times a year?
I don't know
Okay.
what that is.
So you would take compost and then you make specific extract, taking the biology off that compost into
Like compost teas?
compost tea is up in the phyllosphere, so it's above ground, but it's the same concept as a tea. But you're soaking. You would have like a water bubble come through and soak each one a little bit because you don't have irrigation, so it'd be fairly difficult process. But the idea is to drive the biology down, so the biology is kind of helping work the soil to keep the plaintiffs separated when you have a lot of clay and that kind of thing. But you are using a compost tea then, or some kind of foliar?
No, I'm not using compost tea at this point. I'm using compost only.
Okay.
And the winter crops.
Yeah.
Because of the legumes, there's nitrogen, and
sure.
destroy.
There'll be a fixing
for the winter.
Yeah. What I've for the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, have been growing grapes in the middle of the desert in Phoenix. And we had one project that is a quarry.
Yeah.
So it was all rock and they turned it into a golf course. So on the top of this quarry, we blasted and had no soil at all. But we would take some of the blown material and put in about 12 inches of this, you'd call it a gravel, I guess, but underneath was big pieces. Weird as it is, the vines grew just fine.
Mm-hmm.
But my problem was with the heat. We would get, let me think in terms of Celsius, but I could never get, it was a Zinfandel grape, but I could never get through veraison. So 2 weeks before complete veraison, it'd go to 122 degrees Fahrenheit or 40, 41 Celsius, and the plant completely shut down. So I'd have half of the vineyard would have, red grapes, and I'd pick those, and the other half would just go back into the soil. And I tried everything from extracts to teas to composting to mulching to cover crops. But the reality for me was at that point, we needed another variety. I needed to plant something different in there. I never got to that point, but we were looking at maybe varieties of maybe a Tempranillo that just had a shorter cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Are you having any cycle issues like that where at the end of veraison you're in trouble?
No, because we have heats and we have heat waves.
You don't even know when you're going to get them.
But a dry weather at this point, so far, the years where we have a long period without of water, we don't have that many. Really, it's not. I would not consider that a problem. We're not happy when it happens, but we had 2003 was one.
Your wine is better, but your yield is smaller.
Yeah, the yield is smaller. Well, wine is better, not necessarily. Heat is not something we look.
Not like it used to be.
I could tell about the perfect year for me, but
what year was it?
The perfect year would be a year where, at the end of the season, the vine gets ripe at the same time as the grapes get ripe, which is no longer.
So you're still waiting. You're still waiting for that perfect year.
I remember when I was a kid, the leaves would turn yellow, red. Some of them would be at the edge of falling, and that was where we had the best taste, and that was the best time to harvest.
But the grapes were ready.
Nowadays we harvest. The vines are green, and they remain green for another month.
Oh wow!
That's not normal.
No, yeah.
So this is not my preferred year. But so back to the heat waves. We usually have some water coming at some point during the growing season, starting July, ending August. A 2-month dry season like we can have in Oregon, for example, where we also have grapes.
You're in Oregon,
here.
in the U.S.?
Hmm?
You're in Oregon, you said, in the U.S.?
Yes, we have
Go.
an estate in Oregon
Okay.
since 1987.
Okay.
And so here we
Ah,
know we
so
have some source of
what
water.
is the state you have? Because those are,
You
okay,
know the estate?
well,
It's
this area
Domaine.
here has the best Pinot Noir.
Yes.
The only wine I like to speak of is Pinot Noir from the Willamette Valley in Oregon.
Okay, well, if you know the Willamette Valley, you might know Dundee
Yes.
at the bottom of the
Yeah, I know it
Dundee
very well.
Hills.
Uh-huh.
We are
That's
on
where
the
you
Dundee
are.
Hills
Yeah.
in an estate called Domaine, Drouhin, Oregon.
Okay.
And it's my sister who makes the wine.
Oh, she's living over there.
No, she's living here, but she goes regularly
and does that.
to make the wine at harvest.
Yeah.
To go at the critical times of the evolution of wine in barrel.
You know, it's kind
I
of
go there for the harvest.
interesting because humans have changed the landscape everywhere we've gone. You know, I don't know. You've been to Oregon then.
Mm-hmm.
You realize 80% of the trees in the forest are not indigenous to Oregon. Mm-hmm. They're not endemic. But that goes to show how we never know what the original foundation plant was. One of the concepts of regenerative farming now is they're leaving natural areas with foundation plants in between crops or on the borders or the perimeters, thinking that that's going to actually help maybe with some of the biology that's evolved over millions of years to be effective. But I'm not sure, as you look back, what would be the endemic trees or bushes to this area, because this area has had humans on it for thousands of years.
Yeah, and if you speak about things that grow and die within 15 years, you can adjust.
Right.
The nature has time to adjust to the change of climate. But if you look at the forests, they don't have time to adapt.
Right.
The weather is changing so quickly.
Right.
Global warming is happening so quickly that
that's the problem.
Adapt.
It's the acceleration that's the problem.
Exactly. And so I know that the forest people, the national forest people, when they manage their forests, they try species that would naturally not grow now, because they know that other species that are going to force in the place might be the adapted one for the weather in 40 or 50 years from now.
Right.
So that they have a time to develop fully.
So are you guys playing around with different clones of the same, different varieties of
Pinot Noir and Chardonnay?
Of those are your two primaries, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think you want to switch to Tempranillo at this point.
No.
That might do something to the brand, right?
Not because of the climate change. We have always made selections. We have even some 15 years ago, maybe, created a group of growers that participated, put means in common to participate in selections, have a partnership with a nursery, have all the selections tested for virus, multiply them. We would go see the young vines and determine if they are still vines that we would select to plant in our vineyards, and if not, then that line of clones, let's call them like that, would be discarded. The others would be kept and then provided to all the growers that are participating. So that's I don't like to call it clone, because it's not really a clone. You have one individual.
It's a hybrid. It's some sort of not even that.
No, you go in that vineyard and you select 50 vines. Your neighbor does so too, and then you have 150 of them. You test them for virus. You only have 100 left. You provide them to the guy. He grafts them. He plants them, and then he has a vineyard out of those 100 vines. But keeping that part is from that vine, that part is from that vine, etc., etc. So at this point, they are clones.
And this is 10 years minimum.
It's a long process, and then we would go and visit the vineyards and say, okay, the original vine we had taken because it had this characteristic. Now, as a young vine on this rootstock in this place, the way it looks is not satisfactory. We don't keep it. And so you go from 100 to 15 vines. Now, those 15 vines could be clones, but we actually keep them as a package of 15 vines that have some common characteristics. like loose clusters, small clusters, big berries, small berries, things like that.
As you're seeing a
Small
difference
production,
in...
big production. And then everyone would pick among those collections of individuals that were the ultimate selection and plant that if they want in their vineyards, and add clones if they want, and add some of that massal selection if they want. But the massal selection has always the risk of virus.
Right.
But this massal selection, even with the virus risk, is also a way to keep the existing diversity of the vineyards.
Got it. Because that's what they would do.
As soon as you select
in nature.
You select your criteria of today, but what if the generation in 50 years from now wants to have access to the diversity we know at our generation today?
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep some diversity. It might be at the expense of virus, yes, but I think that's worth it to keep the genetic diversity we have.
So we'll talk about diversity and how important that is in a minute, but the so when we talked about, always, this is something you would have probably done since 1921. You're always looking at Mendelssohn's.
I don't know if it goes back to that time, but obviously it was very common in the growers, in the farms.
Right.
It was very common to
always
make a
looking
selection,
for something maybe a little better, maybe a new trait.
Particularly after grafting had arrived, after the phylloxera crisis, people grafted to have viable vines. So and that's the time where they made selections of what they would like to replicate in their future vineyards. And my father did that too. My grandfather, I don't know, my father didn't talk much about the selection my grandfather has made, but he did.
Yeah. Well, he had to, right? So you just talked about like a rootstock. Are you using a common rootstock for most everything?
No.
You use multiple rootstocks.
No. Again, let's look at the characteristics of this vine, this area. And again, this area might be 4 rows. I have a vineyard in Côte de Nuit that's 4 rows. So I might look at that, have a soil analysis made, determine some major characteristics, and then with those characteristics, we have a collection of possibilities of rootstocks. If you had interviewed me 20 years ago, I would have said to you, in any case, I pick among 5 choices max.
Right.
Now, today we know those 5 choices are no longer suited to 30 years of weather down the road.
Uh-huh.
So we have to try some things else, which we do. So there are still the common rootstocks that we know that in certain areas might still be adapted. But of course, one of the things that are critical is how adapted it is to heat, to drought in particular. And so more and more rootstocks that were never used here, but used a lot in the south of France, where historically, still nowadays, it's much drier than it is here. Then we start testing those rootstocks.
Thank you for joining the Harvesting Wisdom podcast. Click subscribe and like for ongoing insightful conversations. Explore our webpage for show notes and additional resources. Visit our guests' webpage for deeper insights. Your engagement is the foundation of our journey, and until next time, keep pursuing wisdom.